What's going on, guys? JP back at you once again, bringing you guys day number 2 in my 10th annual 31 Days of Horror, a series in which we watch and review 31 horror films in 31 days, all during the month of October, leading right up to Halloween, which is, of course, all of our favorite holidays. It is the best holiday. We love it. But more importantly than Halloween itself, I like October, because as good as Halloween is, I sort of get sad when it's Halloween because I know that it's about to end. But October is like Halloween for 31 days, so I love that about it. But anyway, continuing along with day number 2, continuing our Arrow spotlight, we have a title that I recently actually picked up, and that is Blood Rage from the year 1987. More on that later. But Blood Rage is a Thanksgiving horror film, which is very rare. There's not a ton of Thanksgiving horror films that I could think of off the top of my head, and there's probably not a ton of Thanksgiving horror films that are actually good. We never got Eli Roth's Thanksgiving slasher. Of course there's Thanksgiving, but that's like silly, fun stuff. I think this is the true Thanksgiving horror film. So I'd seen Blood Rage once before, and that was during Joe Bob Briggs' last drive-in Dinners of Death special that he did a couple of years ago. And he showed a couple of horror films, and oddly enough one that was like more of an action film. But we had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, absolute classic, Hills Have Eyes, Dead or Alive, the Takashi Miike film, which is kind of weird, and then Blood Rage, which I think capped off the night, if my memory serves me correctly. And I checked it out, and I really enjoyed it. It was my first time watch. Knew I had to pick it up eventually. I did grab it. As you can tell, I did not pick this up when it came out, because I believe Arrow Video starts putting their older releases in blue cases instead of the clear ones, which this is the only one that I own that is in a blue case, I believe. Really kind of weirded me out. I thought it was an Umbrella release at first, because it's like the same, it looks like the exact same case that Umbrella uses, this blue, like, thicker case. Anyway, that's besides the point. I know that there originally was a cool, I think it was like a 3-disc or a 2-disc Blood Rage edition when it was first released. The Arrow put out a limited edition. I wish I would have grabbed that. I didn't really know much about the movie, and I just never bought it, but I really wish I would have got that. I think that was one of their first releases in the US here when they started releasing things in the US. But anyway, Blood Rage. This film was actually shot in 1983, but wasn't released until 1987. I didn't know that, but it actually makes sense, because when you watch the movie, it feels like an earlier 80s film. Maybe you wouldn't expect as much like comedic moments in an earlier 80s film, but the late 80s had such a different feel to it, and this doesn't really feel like a later 80s film. So that actually totally makes sense, even though I didn't know or put it together. It makes sense now that I think about it. So Blood Rage opens up with these twin brothers who aren't identical twins, but you're supposed to believe that they look a lot alike. Maybe they couldn't get identical twins. I know all twins are not identical, but a lot of the characters seem to get them confused because they look similar. And they do look a little similar, but not identically similar. Like, I could tell them apart. But they're kids at a drive-in. Their mom's like hooking up with some dude. They sneak out of the back of their station wagon, and they go spot this young couple getting it on, and the one brother kills the couple and basically wipes blood on the other brother and frames him. So we flash forward about, I'd say maybe 10 years later, and the one brother who was committed to the crime, the murder, that didn't commit the crime, is in a psychiatric hospital, and the other brother is living his best life out, having fun and having friends and things like that. So one Thanksgiving Eve, they're having a little family dinner. The mother's still crazy and worried about the son in the psychiatric hospital, but they get news that the brother escaped the psychiatric hospital, and they think they might be on his way home. And the audience knows that he's innocent, and one other character, I believe, the psychologist believes that he's innocent. And we know that the good quote-unquote brother is actually the bad quote-unquote brother, and he's actually a killer. But it doesn't seem like he's killed anybody since then, but seeing his mom with a new boyfriend sort of reawakens that rage inside of him, the blood rage inside of him. The innocent brother that was framed comes back into the picture. It's sort of just a really weird movie after that. We're skipping around between different characters, and the brother who was on the outside, the one that framed the other one, he starts killing everybody, and everybody thinks that it's the brother that escaped the psychiatric hospital. So that's the plot. Man, this movie is really fun. I don't know what it is about. I think like because there's like these weird beats of comedy in it that it's like sort of this dark comedy that's funny. Like there's this like the killer literally says when there's this red blood on a banister, he's like, that's not cranberry sauce. And like I don't know why, but I think that's like the famous quote from this movie, but like it's hilarious to me. The kills are really good in this one. I was actually surprised. Like there are some very solid kills throughout this film. And anytime you have a slasher film, you want to have some good kills because it makes the pacing of the film feel way better. There's a little bit of nudity in there. The mother is a highlight. She's very, I don't think she's done many films, but she looks very familiar. She just has this sort of like crazy vibe to her that I just think is great to watch. She's kind of going insane over the whole killer son type thing. Brother who framed the other brother is such a like douchebag. Like you just are like, man, you just sent your brother to psychiatric hospital for 10 years and he's like a sociopath, you know what I mean? But yeah, Blood Rage, it's nothing insanely good, but man is it a good time. I really enjoy Blood Rage. From now on, I think this is going to be a yearly Thanksgiving watch. You know what I mean? I don't see any other way than to watch this film on Thanksgiving every year because we don't have a lot of Thanksgiving horror films. But this one is a lot of fun. Preferably if you can, I don't know if it's still up, but watch it with the Joe Bob commentary because he's always a blast. So yeah, we have Blood Rage here. Very cool release. Very happy to have it. Transfer really good too, especially these old films from the 80s. You know, I say old and it's crazy like how old films from the 80s technically are now. Yeah, we're used to, you know, growing up in the 90s, like the 80s was like 10 years before. You know, it was as long as it was since I started this series. But anyway, with that said, I'm going to give Blood Rage a solid 7.5 out of 10. Give it a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. We'll see you tomorrow with another Arrow video review, and peace out.